A very pleasant good afternoon as we welcome you into another edition of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show here. And, well, I might as well just come clean with
tell the
the
story,
situation.
Jeffrey.
Boy, it is a bizarre. So we have had, as I think every radio station in history has had, we've had some technical issues from time to time. Either the satellite dish has an issue, or the relay system gets messed up, or computer issues, or the transmitter itself goes down and get a lightning storm, lightning strike, that sort of stuff. So technical issues are certainly not something unfamiliar to folks in radio. This one today is a different one, though. Never have encountered this. So we are, at the moment, our location is in the middle of a great big building. We just have a small, very small room for our studio in the middle of a much bigger building with a bunch of businesses in and around it. We're actually getting ready to move our location, and we'll have more on that probably in a couple of weeks when we come back, and more on that in a moment. But Scott Gazy and I locally do a show called Let's Talk from 8 to 10 a.m. And Scott usually gets in there 10 to 15 minutes before I do. My schedule is get my kiddo and wife ready to go for the day and kind of get them out the door, and then I hustle over. About a 15-minute drive from my place to the station. I usually leave in the 7:40 neighborhood, 7:40 to 7:45. So I get a text as I'm driving, comes up on my screen in the car, says, "Hey, did we change the door code or something? We have a little 4-digit door code that we use to get in the studio. So it's, able to protect all of the equipment and stuff in there, so not anybody can just walk in at any time. And none of us have a key. It's just the door code." And I'm like, "Well, no, not to my knowledge." So we make some calls. Nobody in our management knows anything about any change. We're starting to wonder if, because of the change of location, if that has anything to do with it. We're having trouble getting hold of anybody. So we just run Fox Sports through the morning. And finally this afternoon, I get message. It's like, I still don't really know what happened, but something got just messed up, some sort of technical issue with the code, and the guy that can solve that will be over to do so, but can't get up here until about 5:30 or so this evening. So we're just doing our Facebook Live edition of the show today. Fox Sports is continuing to air on the Sports Radio 98.7 station because we can't get into our own studio. It's just the darndest thing, and nobody really knows why. And again, it'll be addressed.
We've had a few of these
we
snafus.
Should be good tomorrow, but so we kind of just we grabbed a seat and sat in the hallway. Had a couple people walk in at one point. It's like, you guys in timeout or something?
Wait, you were broadcasting from a
No, we couldn't broadcast because you couldn't get into the studio. So we're just sitting there hoping that maybe somebody will come along that can let us in. We're waiting to hear back, getting some work done on our computers and stuff. But we're just sitting there in the hallway, and other people are walking by. It's like, you two in timeout?
You're waiting for the principal.
Yeah,
the principal's outside.
We misbehaved. So that's a new one. Don't think I've ever encountered in my years in radio not being able to do the show because we could not get into the broadcast facility. That is a new one. So, yeah, you just never know. You roll on and adjust. And, again, we will hopefully, I should be able to get in the studio this evening at some point and should be back to so-called normal tomorrow. Now, as for our show, it won't be quite normal because I am actually heading out of town tomorrow with the family, our annual weekly vacation down in Holden Beach, North Carolina. So I am vamoose as of tomorrow afternoon. And so I will be out next week. The Dear Goon will be holding down the fort. And
you got a litany, a list of players who are coming back to do the show.
Oh, nice.
30 to 40 guys are signing up right now.
Like that. That'll be fun. And then the following week, we will not have shows on July 2nd or July 4th. We just traditionally take that week off as we do the Christmas to New Year's week, just to recharge the batteries a bit as a show. So
I was thinking
no
about this
show
today.
either of those days, which means this is my last show until after July 4th.
After your vacation, you're going to be 20 pounds heavier, all tan. Heck yeah. And really full of American pride.
We'll be back on July 9th then after that week off. So my last show here today until July 9th. Again, Goon will hold down the fort, and we'll have shows Tuesday and Thursday next week, and then a week off, and then we're back full bore and hopefully ready to go the following week. So that's the update on the programming notes. And again, if you have friends in the State College area that are wondering what the world's going on, we can't get the Goon and Ironhead on the radio. Now you know why. We can't get into the studio to get everything set up to allow that to occur.
Ironhead left the air conditioner on, and the electricity went out. It shorted out. They can't even open the doors now.
So air conditioning better be on these days.
Technology has caught up to you.
Pitched a terrific game yesterday. The beloved Pirates with a 1-0 victory over the Reds to take 2 of 3 in that series. Pittsburgh a half game behind second place St. Louis. And I think 7 games out in the National League Central now, sitting 2 games under 500 at 36-38. Phillies dropped the final game of their series. The old knuckleball comes back to get the Phillies last night.
One of my questions today.
Yep.
The articles, everything talking about in Philadelphia was that it was the first time pretty much any of these guys have faced a knuckleballer.
Yeah.
And it's like you grow up throwing knuckleballs. It's pretty much like your only way to stay in like you're not in the minor league throwing knuckleballs either. It's like you get to the majors and it's like you need to have that one little thing different, and then you learn that as you get to the majors. And then, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, you're not watching Reg going out there and fighting off knuckleballs.
No, indeed.
So like Tim Wakefield started his career as a regular pitcher, correct? And then he progressed into the into the knuckleballer that he ended up being. And was he the last? No, the Mets had a guy.
Yeah.
Phillies used to shell. Dickey was his name, I think. R.A. Dickey. Yeah, they used to shell him. But it's fun watching a game like that. Because you see guys who are just like Kyle Schwarber. Guy just hits the ball when it goes 490 feet. It's like with his wrist. But they can't catch up to a 58-mile-an-hour ball that's moving around. It's just now that gives you any indication about the Micah Parsons hitting a Major League Baseball player. That these guys' timing is so screwed up by a knuckleball because they are used to 90 to 102-mile-an-hour fastballs that they can't adjust their swings. And it's crazy to think about. But it is funny sitting there. That was the first time the majority of the Philadelphia Phillies actually hit against a knuckleballer. How do you prepare for that? Like
it's like trying to prepare for the triple option in football anymore.
Well, you better get some film work on that.
Yeah. So it's definitely a different animal.
Entirely.
Phillies seem to be in pretty good shape, though, still at this point. 7 points in front, 7 games rather, in front of the Atlanta Braves in the National League East. I think the Phillies have the Diamondbacks coming in starting tomorrow, and
you could have got me on the Pirates. This could have been right now. I wouldn't have known. But once you said it was,
this was
Keller pitching. I was like,
from yesterday. Yep, Ryan Reynolds with the 8th inning home run for the only scoring in yesterday's Reds-Pirates game.
1-0.
Buccos have been playing pretty well as of late.
I mean, I hope people out there listening to me and you, I could actually watch. I like watching the Buccos. I cannot catch up to Skeens. I missed his last 2 starts because I'm like doing stuff. And I'm like, hey, when's Skeens' next start? And I look at them, he pitched yesterday. Like, damn it.
Yeah.
Because they sometimes have him on a 6, sometimes on a 5 rotation.
Yeah, I guess he's not pitching Sunday. I think I saw somewhere
to pitch him at home, though, right? Is that what's going on?
Well, they're home. I think they're home this weekend. So, anyways, couple of things. I finally did go back and do a little research on just for my own personal interest. We were talking about the athletes of the year with Penn State the other day, and Aaron Brooks got it on the men's side. Well, when you have 2 hours to kill and you're sitting outside your studio, you're like, that's true. That thing I was wondering about the other day. So I went back and looked up since 2010. So in the 15 years since Cal's been here, the Penn State male athlete of the year has been a wrestler. How many times out of the 15?
2010, so 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. I'll say 8.
That's a good guess, and that's probably around where my guess would have been 11.
Holy
of the 15 years it has been a wrestler.
I guess the question is, who were the other 4 male athletes?
Well, Saquon Barkley was one. He was the only football player in the last 15 years to be named the Penn State Male Athlete of the Year, which is interesting.
Tyler Battle?
Taylor, two basketball players, Taylor Battle
and I forget his name. Lamar Stevens.
Yeah.
I always call him Jeremy. Lamar Stevens.
Yep.
Okay. And then
the other was
I'd say maybe a lacrosse player.
It was a men's soccer player, actually.
Wait, you said athlete. You said a sport.
Yeah,
an American sport.
This was like 2011, maybe. I think that occurred, and then. Interestingly, on the women's side, there were 5 women's volleyball players and 4 women's soccer players, and then no other sport had more than 2. So your national championship sports in the last 15 years have produced 20 of the 30 athletes of the year that Penn State has.
You say national championship? They came from teams that won national titles. Or
just from
Olympic
national
sports.
titles over the last within that last 15 years.
Well, geez, I mean,
which is pretty interesting. There's a reason, obviously, that those programs are national championship programs. But anyways, just a little side note. Just got me to
12 that were Olympic sports. Would soccer be considered an Olympic sport here? That's a great question. I never really even thought about that.
It would be. So anyways, that's my little side note.
Well, what was your other homework?
Penn State football. I don't know. What was my other homework?
NC State basketball.
Oh, I did not. Well, we got that answered at the end of the show on Tuesday.
Well, my ADD was obviously kicked in there, so it wasn't about them using their name, image, and likeness, or for what selling. They were going after because they used their.
Yeah, the actual images of them and made a profit. As far as Penn State football, they got another defensive back for safety in the incoming class of 2025. But what I just find most interesting, and I just got into another discussion, and I know we've talked about this, Goon, but it is still fascinating to me, the difference of opinions on James Franklin and his tenure, what his ceiling is, that the whole bit. There are people that are just adamant that he has to go, the program's being held back, he's awful, we're paying all of this money, and look at the results. And so this recruiting class that's coming in 2025, right now, the consensus is that at the moment, and it'll go up or down a little bit, but it is the 9th best class, is what the experts, the recruiting analysts, recruiting services say at the moment. James Franklin, again, is, and I haven't, this may have changed slightly in the last year, but as of last August, James Franklin was the 11th highest paid coach in college football. His recruiting classes, and the knock on him, what those that knock him the most will say, he's a great recruiter but a lousy coach.
Yes.
Well, you look at his recruiting classes, again, 11th highest paid coach. Recruiting classes generally in the 10 to 15 range. He's had a few a little below that. I think might have had one number 5 class, number 6 somewhere in there. But generally, year in and year out, Penn State has a very good recruiting class. Not what Ohio State has, not what Alabama has, certainly when it comes to the 5-star prospects, but really good, consistently good recruiting classes. He's bringing in, again, 10 to 15 recruiting classes, 11th highest paid coach in college football, and lo and behold, Goon Penn State finishes pretty consistently 8 to 12 under James Franklin.
It's funny how that works, isn't it?
Well, it's almost like Penn State is getting what it's paying for. And we got into this, it wasn't really an argument, but it was a discussion over the weekend. It's like, well, Penn State's paying all this money, and they're paying a lot of money, but they're not paying Ohio State money. They're not paying Alabama money. They're not paying Texas money. They're not paying Texas A&M money. They're paying James Franklin a very good salary. James Franklin is producing commensurate to the salary he is being given.
No doubt.
They are right where they should be, maybe even a little ahead of where they should be. But it's just that perception. And part of it is Penn State fans' perception, I would argue, the old-time fans in particular, those that are my age and up, or even, maybe 50 and up, your perception is skewed because Joe Paterno was Joe Paterno. And for all of those years, you had consistency. You knew who the coaching staff was. You knew what Joe Paterno was. You knew that Penn State was way underpaying Paterno relative to what other top programs were getting. And lo and behold, down the stretch, the good years, the years where Penn State was rolling out a team that could contend for a national title, they were fewer and far between.
Sure.
And all of a sudden, you're playing catch-up. And, we've talked about it with the stadium. We've talked about it with James Franklin and the facilities. And I am one of those. I'm with you. I don't like seeing all the money being invested in football. I think the accusation that was inaccurate, that was made when everything broke in 2011 and 2012 with, Penn State, it is, only concerned about football. Look at the money, was not the case. Now, you look at the money percentage-wise that is being spent on this program now, you look at the money that is being poured into Beaver Stadium now, yeah, you could argue football now has taken over everything else at the university, and I'm
taking the stadium out of that. I'm out on the stadium.
Not close. When you look at the percentage compared to prior to everything going down. But again, Penn State, you can't say, well, I mean, you can, people are. You can't accurately say Penn State is overpaying James Franklin and Penn State has to cut back on what it's spending on football, and then you're going to go hire somebody and be more competitive. It's not the way it works, kids. No. It's just not. And again, we talked about this a little bit last week, but count me among those. I am okay. I think it is going to be difficult for Penn State in this current era that we're living in to win a national title with James Franklin as its head coach, not so much because of James Franklin, much more because of Penn State and where it's at in the overall scheme of things. And again, Penn State is very competitive. Penn State should, and I suspect will, consistently be a playoff team. Well, when you're in the playoffs, right, things can happen. You can get on a roll. Sure. Your team could be a little healthier. You get the right quarterback the right year. You can catch that magic in a bottle. Just like it can happen for George Mason basketball, just like it can happen for, a bunch of programs,
TCU
bunch
football.
of sports. You can get those moments.
Mm-hmm.
So do I rule out the possibility of Penn State winning? No, I think it's unlikely. I think it certainly could happen. I think when you're consistently in the playoffs, the chances of, man, everything comes together that one year, yeah, they go up. But consistently, there's a reason that Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, I think likely moving forward, Texas, we'll have to keep an eye on USC. I still have questions about whether they can get the defense figured out there in a conference like the Big Ten. And listen, you're going to have some teams move in and out. And I think Penn State, again, could hit the jackpot in one of those years. But Penn State is right where it should be in terms of developing talent, in terms of record, in terms of recruiting classes. Again, they're, I would argue, maybe a little ahead of where they should be, given when you're comparing the money invested, both in the coaches and the facilities and all of that. And now you throw in the NIL component, and that's another level too, that a lot of these programs are the elite programs, to go back to the now infamous press conference. The elite programs are spending at a different level right now.
And James has said some stuff over his career that has come back to bite him. And one of those things, you just said it, was him talking about the elite program and stuff like that. We're not elite yet. And the people always go back to that.
Yep.
So then this year, I don't know why he said it, but he said that Mike Carroll's son is their key to their recruiting class. So me personally, I don't know why he would put himself out there and say that, because if it didn't work out, it's going to come back and blow up in his face.
Yeah.
And it seems like it has, because Carroll committed to going to Alabama.
Yeah.
So I again, it goes back to the elite thing. I don't know why he said that, but we threw our hat in the ring when Sandy got here, and we did the weight room thing. We got into an arms war. We redid the weight room. And you know what? And I tried to jump in on what the stadium thing, saying the 700 million. A lot of that is upkeep that has not been done for the last 20 years. And I will say to you that in the I was here the last 6-7 years of Joe's program, and it was in need of upkeep and to bring it forward, much like Alabama's going through this right now and not having Saban, and they're really having to dig in and really change their whole everything, because that goes into a lot of the recruiting thing, where Nick Saban could be Nick Saban and say, okay, these guys want to come play for me. Hence why he leaves when the kids are saying, how much are you paying me?
Yep.
So I would see Joe Paterno being that exact person. That guys came here to play for Joe Paterno and the Penn State name. And when that goes away, we had to join, the keep up with the Joneses type of thing. I that's how I feel. But the upkeep that was not done in the football program, in the locker room, but you and I, my man Rob over here, it was fine for us. We didn't need all that. It's a different world now. It's all about what do you have, and I can't say I like it. I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. I talked to these coaches. We were around Lebanon this weekend last week, and I was just like talking to some coaches. I don't know who to say their names, but I was like, I don't know how the hell you do it. I mean, you literally, because I did the college recruiting to a Division III school that was all male.
Yep.
I got some college kids in college there. That's a hell of a sales job on my part to go to an all male college. I mean, my Lord, an all male college. So, but these coaches, I just look at them. I said, I don't know how you can keep doing this, and the fact that it's done annually, like even Kale has to. Every year at the end of the season, as returning national champion, has to re-recruit his guys, and they're going to say, "What am I getting? What am I getting?" And they're going to say, "Well, I can go here and make this much more money." But then Kale's going to say, "Well, you're not going to win a national title, so what's more important to you?" So I compare us right now to where Washington was, and they made that run last year.
Yep.
And it was a good team run. There were not huge NIL money guys out there. It wasn't like that at all. It was just a good bunch of guys who were committed, won the Pac-12, go to the college playoffs and this and that, and didn't have a great. I seem that that's going to be us. I feel like that wants to be us. But now look at Washington right now. As soon as their coach leaves to take the Alabama job, 90% of that staff and roster are gone. So they are really just replacing from the base. So I still think that people who crap all over our coaching staff and James Franklin say where we could be, but we could still catch lightning in a bottle. That's still there. Like you said, if we get into the playoff, a 12-team playoffs, you've seen enough playoffs, guys get hot, and then it's on. And then it's like you just got to ride the hot guy through. It's like hockey, basketball, football can be the same way. Your passing game's doing great, or your defense just clicks.
Yeah.
And you could just destroy everybody. That could happen. I mean, that wasn't going to happen in the 4. I think we have a pretty good shot with when we're in the 12. And I think that a lot of the naysayers go away when what's James going to say? Like, dude, I'm in the playoffs last year. How do you want to run me out of town? You know, I can understand when I'm as frustrated as anybody that we have one win versus Michigan and Ohio State in the last 6-7 years. I mean, that drives me a little bit crazy. But It is what it is. I mean, we got to get over that hump. So, I mean, we got to do what we got to do to get over that hump. And, you know, like we said, if it happens, we get into that playoff and make things happen. I'm telling you, it could happen. I believe. I mean, I like this team coming in. I think that Aller got crapped on last year because I felt I think he felt too much pressure to go out there and have to be the star guy. Dude, rely on that run game. Rely on that offensive line to get the running game going, and then it makes your passing game so much easier. So, I mean, a lot relies on Aller. And, you know, I'm reading reports. I mean, if he has a good year, they might project him as the number 1 overall draft pick next year, the number 1 over quarterback, possible number 1 overall in the draft. This is a guy 4 months ago that people wanted to run out of town. I mean, just be patient. Let the coaches coach. I know the knock's on James is guys don't get better. They're not playing the right guys and this and that. But you get the right guys on that team and the right leadership and the right coaching. And then, again, you got a brand-new defensive coordinator and a brand-new offensive coordinator, so we have no idea what's going to go on out there. Kodo Nicky might go out there and just start blowing people's minds. Me and my little brother were talking on Sunday.
Yep.
We're watching games from when we were playing. And Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, and Notre Dame, we're literally all running the exact same offense. Power, trap, dive, screen pass, slants, deep patterns. That was our offenses. All of us. Joe Tiller comes into the Big Ten and just got 4 wide receivers.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. What's going to happen here? There's 4 wide receivers out there. Oh, my God, they're throwing the ball everywhere. These guys are crazy. And that's the norm now. Times change, man. We're going to catch up. We're going to be fine.
Well, so let me make the case.
Here we go.
That this is going to be the year.
Lawyer Goon is on that kind of case?
Yes.
All right, Lawyer Goon is on
Penn State football because, and I guess maybe it depends a little bit how we're defining that this is the year. I think Penn State has a very good chance, provided the health is relatively good, to make a run to at least the Final Four in the college football
home
playoffs.
Game or a bye game?
Now, this is let's start with the schedule and where this team can go. Because I do think when you do the comparison of and there's always wild cards that could come into play.
Sure.
So let's start there. But going into the season, I think most national analysts have 4 teams in the Big Ten pegged as probable for the college football playoffs. In Ohio State and Oregon, which seem almost certainties, and then Penn State and Michigan. When you look at Penn State's schedule, okay, and there's no Michigan, there's no Oregon.
Correct.
So Penn State is the only one of those top 4, if we, and I think most people would generally concur that those going into the season are the top 4 programs in the Big Ten. Whatever order, Ohio State or Oregon won, the other 2. I think most people would have Ohio State right now slightly ahead, but they got to go to Eugene, so we'll see how that plays out, and then Penn State, Michigan, whatever order, 3, 4.
I don't see Michigan. I don't see Michigan in the top. I don't. They have so much to replace. So much.
So Michigan, Ohio State, and Oregon all play each other.
Yep.
So Penn State is the only one that is only playing one of the other three. Everybody else is playing at least two, and Ohio State is playing all three. Ohio State, if it wins the Big Ten title or gets the number one seed, will certainly have earned it. Yes, because not only that, they go to Oregon and Penn State. So they are on the road for two of their three showdowns with the other top programs in the Big Ten. Oregon and Michigan play each other and both play Ohio State. And again, Penn State only plays Ohio State and happens to get the Buckeyes at home. So that part of the schedule plays in Penn State's favor. I think mostly now that 9.5 figure that's floating around in Vegas,
correct.
Most folks have it down to 4 games, I think, for Penn State. And the season opener at West Virginia, and I know it's a dangerous game. I know Morgantown is a tough place to play. And I think West Virginia will be a good team. I think they have a terrific quarterback. Goon, with that being a noon kick in particular, I mean, I feel good about it even if it was a night game. But with a noon kick, the one thing James Franklin, not the one thing, one of the things James Franklin has done a very good job of is having his team ready to go in the season openers, and especially if it is a tougher season opener. That they have been dialed in all of those games and win.
Yes, they do.
And I think Penn State's the better team. I know you're breaking in 2 new coordinators, but I am very optimistic because of the approach and what everybody, coaches and players on that staff, and again, I get that if things weren't going well, they're not going to come out and say, hey, boy, this just seems like we're not on the same page. But they were so adamant and enthusiastic that, man, yes, this was a great spring. Like everybody, you don't have to be as effusive in your praise of the coaches and being on the same page as they were if you're not pleased with that part of it. So I know breaking in 2 new coordinators in a season opener on the road,
it's okay though,
can feel daunting. I think if anything, the defense could be a little vulnerable, replacing the cornerbacks, having a new coordinator. I think if anything, the offense has an advantage here because West Virginia is going to do some guesswork based on what he did at Kansas, but I think you're going to see some different things just because of the personnel that Kotelnicki has here that he hasn't had to work with before.
They played the Big 12 against each other, so Kotelnicki will be, I guarantee you the defensive staff is hammering Kotelnicki about what West Virginia does on offense. And he should have a pretty good idea of what they do on defense.
Yeah.
And they know exactly what he's going to do. So, I should say exactly because the guy actually has a very expensive.
Yeah, and I think Penn State will have some different wrinkles, like pretty substantially from what West Virginia saw from him at Kansas. So, anyways, I am very optimistic about
that first game.
Penn State's chances.
James does come out of the gates real good.
So then you have the 3-game stretch that I think most people are circling as, hey, this is going to largely determine kind of how this season goes. You're at USC, and I get the history there. Penn State's never won against USC in California. But, I go back to USC's defense, and I know they're addressing it. I know they recognize the deficiency. And I think Lincoln Riley, I think it'll be a better defense. I just don't know that it's going to be substantially better. And again, I'm pinning my hopes largely on what I think Andy Kotelnicki is going to be able to do with Drew Aller, with Ty Warren, with Nicholas Singleton, with Katron Allen.
Ooh.
And I get that it's a revamped offensive line. But I think it is a deeper offensive line. I don't think there's quite the top end talent, but I think by the time we get to that point of the schedule, again, provided they stay relatively healthy, I think this group will have played itself into being a really good unit. And I think as a unit, they have a chance to be pretty comparable to what last year's unit was.
Huh?
Might not have the, top 10 draft pick in there, but I think they have a unit that will play very well together by that tough stretch of the schedule. So you're at USC. I think it's a dangerous game. I don't think it's certainly a gimme W, but I like Penn State's chances there. Then you have the Wisconsin game would worry me much more if you didn't have the bye week between USC and Wisconsin, because then you have Ohio State. Yeah. And so I think having that week off to refocus, regardless of what happens in that USC game, and dial in on just Wisconsin, not worrying about Ohio State. Again, it's in Madison, tough place to play.
Nighttime.
We'll see what Wisconsin has. I think, probably Wisconsin, Iowa are in that. I mentioned that I think the 4 teams most people are projecting as the top 4 in the Big Ten are, as we discussed, probably Iowa and Wisconsin are in that next group. I think debatable then with some other teams that could be in that group. Rutgers and Nebraska, can they, either of them take that step and be there? Could Minnesota sneak in there? Maybe.
I do want to throw this in there quick.
Yep.
So there was 3 games that came out as big games on the season for next season.
Yep.
They probably had 30, 40 games listed. Penn State was on it 3 times. +5 versus Ohio State.
Yep.
-5 versus USC, and then -5 against Wisconsin.
Right.
At Wisconsin at night.
Yep. Yeah.
Somebody knows something, I think.
Well, and so part of that is, again, I don't think Wisconsin, going into the season, Wisconsin is not expected to be a playoff team. They're expected to be a good team. I'll have to look up if they're. I'm guessing 8.5 would be their over/under on win total. Now, part of it when you get to that stretch of the season too is, all right, what has happened to that point? Does Wisconsin have a couple of losses? Which we would expect. How's that affecting their psyche? Now, as you said, at home, Camp Randall, night atmosphere, that's going to be
huge,
a difficult assignment, regardless of what's happened with either team. But again, 2 weeks to get ready for that game. 2 weeks for Andy Kotelnicki to throw in some wrinkles. 2 weeks for Tom Allen to throw in some wrinkles. A dangerous game. Again, I'm not chalking it up as a W, but I, as we sit here right now, not knowing injuries and anything else, feel good about that. Ohio State, I think is the most talented team in the country. That includes Georgia. I just think top to bottom, that roster is loaded. But as we have talked about, that is a lot of ego management.
Yes.
Ryan Day and that coaching staff, which includes Chip Kelly, speaking of egos, has to keep on track. We'll see how that plays out.
Again, just to remind everybody, me and Jeff are on
they're 6.5. Thank you, Brent.
6.5.
So,
Jesus.
yes.
They're getting a lot of love that they really shouldn't. So
6.5. No, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Is,
what I'm saying, they're getting.
So
they're putting that as a big game. I don't know why. So maybe we should be upset that it's only a 5-game league. So Ohio State. We're going back to what me and you talked about. People who haven't heard what we said, but it is the. There's a lot of ego, like you just said. There's a lot of guys in that locker room, and it's like you watch the AAU basketball leagues, and they have all these 7 or 8 just 5-star basketball recruits. But once they start losing, they don't know how to play with each other. They're not playing for the love of the game or the love of the team. They're playing because they're getting something out of it. And Jeff and I are both under the thought that it's real easy for Ohio State to come off those tracks. If they lose a bad game, those kids just might quit and say, well, what are we doing here? That type of thing. And the pressure Ohio State fans and their staff will put on that staff, and the staff will put on those players, it will be immense. And it's not out of the picture for those guys to lose 3 or 4 games, in my opinion. Have a great team, but they lose a game or 2 and they just quit. I mean, they're just they're mercenaries. They're not there for education. They're there for the love of Ohio State. I mean, I don't think our guys are here for the love of Old State. I mean, this is the world we're starting to live in now, where it's a money thing. And are they playing for the love of the university, the love of the game, or the love of their teammates type of thing? And the people who can do that will succeed.
So I want to follow up on that for a moment, because going back to the James Franklin, and is he achieving at the right level, overachieving, underachieving? I would argue that actually the culture component is really strong here with James Franklin and Penn State. And I think the evidence of that is when you look at the transfer portal and the number of guys that Penn State wanted to have stay that left. Now, part of that is going to be reading between the lines. I mean, obviously, Penn State isn't coming out and saying, yep, this is a list of guys. We're okay if they leave. Get them out of here, and this is a list of players. But as you look at it, Goon, I mean, I think you and I at least would agree. I mean, there have been maybe 5 players, and that might be stretching it, and it's like since the pandemic, that Penn State would have, really would have liked that guy to stay that left. Almost all of the guys that have left have been guys that were going to places to try to get some playing time that they weren't going to see here. And again, some of this is just what we hear through the grapevines, so you take it with a grain of salt, but not ideal locker room guys that were becoming a problem off the field. And again, I think Penn State
there was definitely an
okay.
issue with that a couple 5, 8, 9 years ago. I think that there was a problem in that locker room, but I think he has weeded it out really, really well.
Yeah,
I really do. And there are. I mean, I deal with these guys on a weekly basis, and Langdon's been on the show here with you, and I do a show with him every once in a while, type of thing. And there is a love. There is a love, and these guys are tight. I mean, we played in that golf or the celebrity bowling tournament last week. There's 10 football players there of our Penn State regular players that are still on the team now. And great social guys, just love it. They're playing for each other.
And that has been a deliberate effort on the part of James Franklin to create that culture component here at Penn State. I just did a podcast last week with Aaron Brooks, and
he stinks.
We talked about obviously the coaches know technique and can teach all that, but Aaron said that is not what's separating Penn State. It's the culture that they have developed with wrestling. And one of the reasons I do think Penn State has a reasonable chance to catch lightning in a bottle, if not in the upcoming season in the James Franklin tenure, is because of that, because that culture component is so strong. And while I don't think Penn State is going to year in and year out match the recruiting or the NIL and thus the recruiting that, Alabama, Texas, Georgia, Ohio State in the conference are doing, I do think that they can be in that next tier where they've been. And with the culture component, again, I think you can build that opportunity where, the other team, a la the Fiesta Bowl in 86 or in 87 to cap off the 86 season, where you have that culture. I mean, I don't think there's a coach out there that wouldn't tell you Miami was the more talented team. If you went player by player, hey, that they have more top-end talent than Penn State. Didn't matter, not certainly on that night. And I would argue a big part of that was the culture and Penn State's ability to have everybody buy into that game plan and what they wanted to do in that particular game.
I got something for you, Head. I have Ohio State, I have Michigan fans, I have Purdue fans, I have fans from all over pretty much. And we all get together somehow. It comes up that it's like the known thing around is if you want to go and play for national titles, you go to Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, Texas, Alabama, Clemson. Or you want to be best friends with the coach and this and that, then you go to Penn State. And I'm like, you know what? In this era, in this culture that we're rocking right now, that's not a bad damn thing. If that's what's going to band you guys together, makes you play better as a team and stick together as a team. Because I'll go back to, Michigan is replacing a whole offensive line. I think 7 guys on that offensive line. Tight end, quarterback, running back. The receivers are there, but the defense is not back. But, they're getting a lot of love because they won a national title. That's soon to be taken back, I hope. But I don't think they're going to be that damn good. I mean, and it pisses me off that they're going to duck us because it's like, damn, I want to beat them up a little bit. So again, I go back. I was on the '92 Penn State team. You know, the reason successful in 1994 is because there was more talent on that '92 team than there was in 1994. Those guys lost a few games. They weren't playing for a national title. They were out. They didn't want to do anything anymore, and it was crazy. And it drove us nuts as young redshirt freshmen, and it made us what we were in 1994 to not do that. So I see as Penn State coming in there and Ohio State and, you know, all these NIL teams and these championship teams they put together. They're not playing for the love of the coach, man, or the love. It could get scary. Now, they're also going to beat teams, go out and just out-talent them and out-athlete them and destroy some folks. But, I mean, how do you beat a bully up? How do you beat a bully? You smack him right in his mouth. You know, you punch him right in his teeth and say, you're not scared of him in this tonight. We're all together, band together, and win the game, man.
Well, so as far as Penn State trying to catch lightning in a bottle this season, so there's clearly a path there to 11-1. I'm not predicting it, not guaranteeing it, but like that's not a preposterous. I mean, Penn State is favored in 11 of its 12 games, so
10-2 might get you into this.
10-2 will get them into the playoffs.
Yeah,
but so there's a path there to 11-1.
That's a buy.
And depending. Because
I don't want to buy. I want a home game.
Yeah, you still have the Big Ten championship game, and if Ohio State is there, and you know that's the other thing. Maybe we'll on a future show talk about the possibilities if there's
knocking another Big team, knocking another Big Ten team out of the playoff by beating them.
If there's a three-way tie for second place, and what all is involved with that in terms of who goes to the championship game and whether or not you want to be in that championship game. I don't think, by the way, that the conference championship games are long for the offering. I suspect. If this isn't the last year, it'll be one of the last two. I do not think beyond 2025 we're going to have
12
conference championship
12-game season. Title games, 13 games. You might have to play the opening round. You might. 13, 14 games. And that's what? Get some of the semifinals or quarterfinals? Well, you might be playing a 16-game schedule now.
I think moving forward. So eventually, I am presuming that we are heading to two super conferences. We'll get back to more regional play, and you're not going to have conference championships because, and we're going to see it play out this year. There are going to be situations with the Big Ten and the SEC, almost guaranteed, at least with one of them, where you're going to have a team that does not play in the Big Ten or SEC championship game that benefits from not having to play in that game against presumably Georgia or Ohio State, and therefore gets a higher seed than the team that goes. And it's going to be a lot of discussion, and there will be arguments made both ways. I just think sooner rather than later, we're going to get to a 16-team playoff.
Oh, boy.
No conference championships. You'll take the regular season conference champions in the two mega conferences, or if there's four, then those four. They'll be the number one seeds, and then everybody else will be seeded accordingly. But as far as this season, and again, lightning in the bottle for Penn State, if you get to that 11-1 mark, whether or not you play in the Big Ten championship game, and regardless of the result, you're in very good shape with your seeding in the playoffs. Now you have a veteran quarterback who has had two successful seasons. Obviously, if Penn State is 11-1 in the regular season, it is in large part because of the offense and what has happened with Andy Kotelnicki. And I think, especially if Penn State does get the home game that 11-1 presumably would get them in the playoffs, now you have the Nicholas Singleton, Katron Allen factor against whatever team you're playing. That is going to be very difficult to stop at Beaver Stadium in a cold weather and potentially bad weather game. And then again, once you get to that point, now now you're in the running. Now it's just a matter of matchups. Can you get hot, pull out a game in a given situation? So I think that
I got
that
one. How about
the
dumbest scenario of all time?
Yep.
Penn State, Ohio State, they're 12-0. And they say, we're already in the playoff. I don't want to play in the Big Ten title game. Wow. I know it's going to improve your ranking and stuff like that. That's the easy answer. I mean, But if you're there, again, if you want to go, you could have a 16-game season. Oh,
yeah.
And we'll talk about that on the way back because the NFL just had a little snippet come across there. They're looking at 18 games.
Yeah.
And people are saying, it's not fair to the players, not fair to the players. Guess who voted on it?
Yeah.
The players. Because guess what they're getting?
Yeah.
More money.
Yeah.
Good for them. You only got so much time. Make it while you can, baby.
Only so much the human body can endure, though.
If you're going to make enough money in 3 years and you used to make in 5 years,
they're stretched.
Let's let it rock, baby.
We will take
like a true meathead right here.
Take care. We are coming back with more of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show. We are at Quaker Steak and Lube, our home away from home. And again, we're coming right back.
Coast into fall with a new Kia from Lion Country Kia. Right now, get a 24 Kia Seltos for 5.25% APR for up to 48 months. A new Sportage plug-in hybrid at 0.9% APR. Check out our 23 Sorrento hybrid for as low as 4.5% APR. And don't forget, all 2023 and 2024 Kias come with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty. Stop in and meet with one of our sales experts today and coast into fall at Lion Country Kia. We want to see ya in a Kia.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Get our Best Wings USA, signature sauces, mouth-watering appetizers, or any of our delicious award-winning lube favorites.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
The Center Hall Farm Store has been serving Center County and beyond for well over a half century. A small family business, the Center Hall Farm Store specializes in animal nutrition and manufactures its feed fresh using local ingredients. Get the best in horse, cow, pig, chicken, and bird feeds. If you're not already a customer, stop in and see why so many of your neighbors are. The Center Hall Farm Store at 110 West Allison Street in Center Hall, or call us at 814-364-1393.
The State College Spikes are hitting the field all summer long. Enjoy fun, affordable family entertainment as the future of baseball is on display in Happy Valley. Spikes teams have something for everyone at the new-look Medler Field at Leblano Park. From great giveaways to fantastic deals, from special appearances to plenty of fireworks, all the way through September 3rd. For tickets, call 814-272-1711 or get the schedule and buy and download at statecollegespikes.com.
Ready to be part of something bigger? Come pave the road to success at Glen O'Habaker and discover a career where your hard work and determination can build a bigger, better future. Our team believes we can build a stronger future together. Join us at Glen O'Habaker, where we value teamwork on the field and on the job. Go to GOHcareers.com to apply. GOHcareers.com. And best of luck to all the Center County sports teams all season long from everyone at Glen O'Habaker.
With a Timber Kids savings account, you can start to save money, earn prizes, and teach your kids the value of savings. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Building futures is what we do at TFCU.
You really need to belong to a credit union. You belong at TFCU, Timberland Federal Credit Union, a credit union you can grow with.
The Goon and Ironhead.
And we are back here on a Thursday afternoon. It's a little warm out. I don't know if you've noticed that, Goon.
Brought in the finest crowd here, though. We're off the air arguing with two local guys here. Ironhead's throwing blows out here. Jesus. Talking Ohio State, Michigan.
Got a couple of shiners, though. I always come out on the losing end of these, Goon.
They call you Ironhead for a reason, though. They got 3 broken knuckles over there.
What do you think about Edmonton's chances this week? Change it up completely.
It is fun. God, I miss the Flyers stinking. God, it really just upsets me because, that was 3-0. And then they got 3-1. It was all like, oh, well, I sound like my dad. Well, of course they're going to lose that game because Florida wants to win it at home and get another home game, That's a great adage to think about. But then Edmonton goes down to Florida and wins the game, and now they're going to game 6 back. And then,
hockey is such so I was talking about this with a friend on, what was it, Tuesday, I guess. But it feels anyway like the basketball, 3-0 in basketball, it feels like it is over.
Yes.
And in that series in particular this year, like you just felt like Boston was a better team.
Sure.
Through the first 3 games, and you tell me if you felt differently, but what Bobrovsky was doing was phenomenal. But if you watch those games, you weren't sitting there like watching Boston Dallas, and I know Dallas like dominated game 4, but even that, it's like, okay, Boston didn't show up tonight. Like
sure.
That's the better team. It felt like Florida was getting out of this world goaltending. And the reason it felt that way was Florida was getting out of this world goaltending. Edmonton was playing well. I mean, it wasn't like Florida was just outplaying them. They were getting unbelievable goaltending. And it wasn't even, sometimes you're like, wow, the defense no, it wasn't the defense. Edmonton was getting its chances. Yep. They could not solve the goaltender. And as hot as he was, like to expect him to just continue to stonewall guys at point blank range all series long is a little bit much. And, Edmonton obviously broke through, got the big win, but it felt like hockey just feels different to me, where every game it's like, toss-up. Depends who gets hot tonight, both in net, who gets the ice kind of tilted going their way. And so momentum, while I'm a big believer in general in momentum in sports, I truly don't think the 3-0 lead meant anything for Florida in terms of game 4 or game 5. I truly don't think Edmonton winning the last 2 games means anything in terms of momentum for game 6. It's going to be who comes out, and I know Edmonton, obviously at home, crowd's going to be going crazy and all of that. Once you settle into the game, like home ice advantage just does not mean much in hockey. And so it won't surprise me if it goes 7. It won't surprise me if Edmonton wins. It won't surprise me if Florida blows them out and takes it in game 6. You almost have to just wait and see how it plays out. But Edmonton obviously is very much in this series.
Yeah, I mean, a 3-0 lead in the NBA or a 7-game series in the NBA and a 7-game series in hockey is completely different.
Yeah.
The old adage is if there's a 3-game series, a bad team can beat a really good team 2 out of 3. In the NBA, that could happen, 2 out of 3. That's why the 7-game series with LeBron James and his super teams has been, you're not going to beat him 4 out of 7 games and those teams.
Yeah.
Where in hockey, you can wear a team out. I mean, again, you go back to Bobrovsky making all those saves. Let's take the saves out of the equation. They were getting the opportunities. The opportunities were there, so he's just making saves and kept them in games, and they win games 1 and 2 and 3. And then now Edmonton, they're not getting great goaltending, but I mean they're more physical, I think. I mean, I love, you know me, I love it. I'm sitting down there at a Letterman Jr. the other night, and Mike Rhodes is sitting there, and he looks at me and goes, "It's about time for them to start going, right?" And I'm looking at the scoreboard, and it's like 6-1, 13 minutes to go in the game. And I look up there again like 5 minutes later, and they are just roughhouse and like setting the tone, setting the calling cards. I mean, here's Mike Rhodes sitting there as a basketball coach, knowing exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And that is Edmonton saying, "Hey, we're ready to go." But the Florida guys are saying, "Hey, you got us tonight. We're going to be there. We're ready to go Thursday." Was it Friday night, 8:00?
Yeah, tomorrow.
Just they're ready to go, man. They're ready to rock and roll. I mean, that's the whole thing about hockey is that you can wear a team down 7 games very easily. And I think that's what Edmonton is starting to do to them. And McDavid has just been absolutely unreal. I mean, unfreaking real.
Yes.
Yeah. Like Gretzky, goal scoring and opportunities. And, jeez, he's fun to watch, man.
He is. And
what's
he
fun
had
to watch,
opportunities in those first three.
Looking in the crowd in Edmonton for a certain fans, trying to find her again, and we can't do it. I don't know where she's gone. Did you see the trend that has started?
No.
Oh yeah, it's running rampant through Europe for the European Cup right now. So your team scores, and it's headlight city. Let's just say a lot of people flashing headlights on big goals now over in Europe and in South America. So it's a heck of a trend here, guys. Let's keep it going.
I can get behind that,
yes,
or out in front of it, or
that's
wherever
fine,
I need
wherever.
to be for it. That's perfectly fine.
Absolutely fantastic. But think. Do you know the answer? Last Canadian team to win a Stanley Cup, and what year?
Montreal in the 90s. I don't
93.
know. 93.
Mark Recchi, Desjardins from the Flyers, and Leclerc from the Flyers were on those teams. 1993 was the last Canadian team to win a Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
That whole country is starving. So, Florida, yes, we got Rob here from Florida. There's a lot of Canadians who live down there. South Florida, Mid-Florida, and all that stuff. So they're all rooting for Edmonton. And they might be from Toronto. They might be from Quebec, but they're all Edmonton Oilers fans down there.
But can you imagine them having to watch – it hurts enough to have another American team, but to watch a Florida team celebrate in your arena, that would be pretty bitter for the Oilers fans.
And I know that there are, but Miami to Edmonton, I know that there's a farther trip going to Seattle and there's a farther trip going to Vancouver or Calgary.
Yeah, that's a pretty good hike.
That is not an easy. Notice they're giving them 3 days in between travel.
Yeah.
That's for a reason. Like basketball waits like 2 weeks between games sometimes. That's a long, long travel day right there. South Florida to Edmonton, Alberta.
Yep.
Not on. But yes, been fantastic. We went through the show Tuesday. I think we didn't spend one word talking about the Boston Celtics winning a NBA crown the night before.
Yeah.
It doesn't register with me at all. Not even a little bit.
It really doesn't with me. Although JJ Redick to the Lakers, Goon.
That just
came out.
That's
going to draw me back in.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's the ultimate, hey, you weren't our first choice, but you were our first choice.
It will be interesting to see. I will be curious. Not that I'll be following it with any regularity, but I am curious to see how he does, how that little experiment goes.
You're dealing with a dictator in LeBron James there. He is, how many times has he made the business decisions for teams? He was doing that in Cleveland, he was doing that in Miami, and now he's starting to do it in LA, and it's like, man, it's getting old. And then you bring in the son factor to this whole thing.
Yeah.
It's still blowing my mind that this kid is a marginal second round draft pick, and he's refusing to work out for certain teams because he doesn't want to play for. Dude, I don't care who the hell your dad is, man. Are you serious? Nothing says more spoiled narcissism than that. In my opinion. Well, maybe Deion Sanders in Colorado, but hey, well, who am I to say anything about that? But there's another one. We got Ohio State, who can either go 15-0 and win the national title, going away, closest game's 30 points.
Yep.
And then you got Colorado out there, who nothing is going good out there right now, in my opinion. There's just a lot of mayhem going on there, and it's going to start imploding, in my opinion. And then guys are just going to start jumping ship. If the story's true, did you see the story about the transfer portal guys? They said that Lil Wayne was in Boulder doing a concert, and he had Shador Sanders as the opening act, and Deion made the whole team go, and if they didn't, they were going to be punished. You need to go support your teammate. That's not your teammate. That's your coach's son, is what you're saying you have to make us go do. And some of the guys were like, you know what? I don't want to go support him, and I don't want to go to this concert, and then in the transfer portal, and that was one of the reasons. And there's something wrong with that.
That's a little much.
A little bit.
That is a little much.
But I have said for 3 years now, Deion Sanders is always going to be Deion Sanders. They can sit there and say he's Coach Prime and he does this for the kids. And I have said, I'm on record saying, if he does half the stuff that he's saying he's doing for those kids, then he is doing an awesome job. But in my opinion, Dion is always going to be out for Dion. And you're not going to change the stripes on a Tiger.
I think that is.
How's that soapbox head?
Right.
How's the soapbox?
Did want to talk. We have not had the chance to talk. I don't believe about Willie Mays. Did we? We didn't have a chance. Right?
He died Tuesday.
It was after. Yeah.
Amazing.
So the impact. So it is interesting because I like hearing the stories of guys that I did not get to see play. Like Roberto Clemente, I have no memory of. I might have seen one or two of his games on TV when I was like 3 years old or something. I don't know. But no memory of Clemente or Willie Mays play. No. So hearing the stories, though, of those guys, like they were larger than life to me. And I'm talking about like in elementary school, like there were just certain names that were magical. And, in our neighborhood, it was, we were a very sports oriented neighborhood. And it was very much back then,
as
football,
we all were.
Basketball, baseball. Like those were the three primary sports. Now I was kind of in my own little world with wrestling because of my dad was an assistant coach locally at a high school, and
I didn't know that.
We started going to Penn State matches.
I did not know that.
I was very, very young. But in our neighborhood, it was now we wrestled once you got most of the guys in our neighborhood wrestled too. But I mean the sports that we were following regularly and consistently, it was football in the fall, basketball in the winter, and basketball.
And then when Mario showed up, that's when you all became
baseball
Penguins fans.
In the summer. And so baseball, obviously the longest season, and it was just that was one of those that it just kept you captivated. Mm-hmm. And hearing the stories of Willie Mays and his accomplishments and seeing the highlight reels, like I don't know any other way to put it. It was just magical. Like you just heard the name and it was like, man, that was something special. Roberto Clemente for me was the same way, just because of the stories, we heard around the Pirates, and obviously with his death, there was a different nostalgia involved too when you heard about those stories. But a couple of things that are just, to me, truly amazing, like kind of hard to wrap your head around with Willie Mays. So he had the 660 career home runs.
That one blew my mind.
Did that in a ballpark in Candlestick Park, which is, I think we could fairly say, not friendly to the home run hitters. And did that while playing in the Negro Leagues for his first year and missing 2 years because of the war. So really you could have had 3 additional years. And I'm not going to claim to know or have the expertise, but I've listened to enough of the folks that know baseball that truly are experts. And they're like, listen, if you added those 3 years and if he was playing in an average ballpark, shall we say, in terms of home runs, like they really think the potential was there for him to have had between 750 and 800 home runs in his career.
Playing today's parks, he might have 900.
Well, yes. I mean, if you had, but so wrapping your head around that so he was obviously a very good hitter, very good home run hitter, outstanding fielder, outstanding base runner.
Average hit for average, too.
Arguably, and again, I've never seen him play, and so I always feel I whenever we get into discussions of the best of all time, like I just have a reverence for athletes that I've read about. So like Babe Ruth, and extending beyond baseball, like I still think Jim Thorpe probably is the greatest athlete that ever lived, at least in the United States. Now, a bunch of different ways to measure that, and impossible to accurately measure it over the eras, because obviously today the training is so much different than what it was then. But you take the dominance in one era relative to another, and again, he's at least in the discussion. Willie Mays is certainly on the very short list of players that you would consider for nomination as the greatest all-around baseball player to have ever played. And then to be such an ambassador for the sport for so long, and to have, do you hear anybody say anything negative, either about his play, his personality, his demeanor? Like, you never hear anybody say, well, yeah, no, he was great, but it's always, no, he was great, period.
Did you see him not smiling? I don't know. I just saw a picture of him not smiling.
And even the nickname, the Say Hey Kid, is just such a cool and unique nickname. I don't know. We lost a truly legendary figure, and we talk about, to some degree, we're all one of a kind, but like that dude, like there will never be another, obviously. And so rest in peace. I'm glad he had a good, long life. I'm glad he got to enjoy it by all accounts. And again, that is a name that truly will live on forever. When you talk baseball, Babe Ruth, Willie Mays, there are certain names that 200, 300, 400 years down the road, it's like, well, yeah, we still know about that guy.
I didn't think about those 3 years.
Near the top of the list.
But I think about how spoiled New York City was when he first came up.
Oh, my gosh.
The New York Giants was Willie Mays.
Yeah.
The Brooklyn Dodgers was Duke Schneider.
Yep.
And then you had Mickey Mantle in the Bronx.
Yep.
I mean, that's insane to think about. Those are three outfielders. And then boom, two of the three are in California.
Yeah.
And the West Coast trip meant from going from New York to New York to St. Louis. Now you got to go all the way out west. So changed the game, bought the game out west pretty much, in my opinion. Again, I've never seen the guy not smiling. You never hear a person say a bad word. I go back to this, when Gary Brown passed away last year or 2 years ago, we were talking about it. Again, his name came up this weekend. Like, what? You don't hear a bad thing about the man. It's like, that is a mark. I mean, there's people, when you and I die, are going to be like, dude, there was that one time or one night, he was a total, and I'm going to be like, well, there was that one decade that Goon was like this or that. But you know what I mean? No, and it's amazing, to see what that guy had gone through, playing started in the Negro Leagues. And by the way, we have deciphered that, right? The what was eligible for transfer over to MLB or no. Remember I said Willie Mays had home runs and stuff like that, and Hank Aaron did in the Negro Leagues, and they said no, they did not count because they were not disallowed from playing in MLB at that point. So I'm saying when Henry Aaron was playing in the Negro Leagues, the racial segregation had already started, so his stuff didn't count. But Willie Mays had I think he picked up 15 hits or something like that towards his total from that. So. I mean, he's one of those guys that, again, you're right. I never saw him play, but everybody you talk to who knows the game, they say the great argument in the history of baseball is if you had to start a team tomorrow, who would be your first pick? And I've heard two or three different things, and I've heard three or four different arguments about each guy, and I'm like, damn, you never think about that. Willie Mays is right there. He's up there with Hank Aaron and Pete Rose, Ted Williams, Mantle, guys who can hit for power, like the ultimate five-tool player. He hit for average, he has speed, he can play the outfield. I mean, you're still, like our bartender here, Rachel, she was like, who's Willie Mays? She goes, I know the name, but what did he do? And I just pulled it up, and I said, well, look at this play in the 1950 World Series. It's never been done since. It's been attempted a couple times. Maybe the guy from Anaheim, like 10, 12, 15 years ago. He dove straight out and caught that. Jim Edmonds, he caught a ball like that. But at the time, in that World Series game, and then to have the wherewithal to catch the ball backwards, spin around, and throw an absolute bomb back to keep a guy from scoring was just absolutely amazing. So, God rest his soul. We lost somebody else today, too.
Who?
Oddball. Donald Sutherland from Kelly's Heroes. He passed away this morning. One of my favorite characters in the history of movies, and one of my favorite movies. It's one of those movies that I had with my mom and dad that we all had an absolute love for that movie.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate within the last year. So Willie Mays was supposed to be in Birmingham tonight for the special game there with the Giants, and I guess they got notified over the weekend that he didn't think he was going to be able to make that. And then obviously he passes away. But Franco Harris was supposed to be part of that.
You're the second person to bring that up, man.
How are these guys right before they're supposed to be honored?
John Madden was the third weekends,
one too. Passing away. It's just I don't know.
John Madden was the other one. He had that Madden like the Sunday before. He had that big special on television, and he passed away within the week. But I know what you're saying. So Franco was supposed to get his number retired the weekend that he did pass away.
Yeah, just an added unfortunate element to losing legends too soon. Again, Willie Mays had a long, wonderful life, but boy, you would have liked to have seen him just had that one last opportunity here in Birmingham. We'll take a break here. We're back to wrap things up for our Thursday afternoon show. It is the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show here at Quaker Steak and Lube.
Coast into fall with a new Kia from Lion Country Kia. Right now, get a 24 Kia Seltos for 5.25% APR for up to 48 months. A new Sportage plug-in hybrid at 0.9% APR. Check out our 23 Sorrento hybrid for as low as 4.5% APR. And don't forget, all 2023 and 2024 Kias come with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty. Stop in and meet with one of our sales experts today and coast into fall at Lion Country Kia. We want to see you in a Kia.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Get our Best Wings USA, signature sauces, mouth-watering appetizers, or any of our delicious award-winning lube favorites.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
The Center Hall Farm Store has been serving Center County and beyond for well over a half century. A small family business, the Center Hall Farm Store specializes in animal nutrition and manufactures its feed fresh using local ingredients. Get the best in horse, cow, pig, chicken, and bird feeds. If you're not already a customer, stop in and see why so many of your neighbors are. The Center Hall Farm Store at 110 West Allison Street in Center Hall, or call us at 814-364-1393.
The State College Spikes are hitting the field all summer long. Enjoy fun, affordable family entertainment as the future of baseball is on display in Happy Valley. Spikes games have something for everyone at the new-look Medler Field at Leblano Park. From great giveaways to fantastic deals, from special appearances to plenty of fireworks, all the way through September 3rd. For tickets, call 814-272-1711 or get the schedule and buy and download at statecollegespikes.com.
Ready to be part of something bigger? Come pave the road to success at Glen O'Habaker and discover a career where your hard work and determination can build a bigger, better future. Our team believes we can build a stronger future together. Join us at Glen O'Habaker, where we value teamwork on the field and on the job. Go to GOHcareers.com to apply. GOHcareers.com. And best of luck to all the Center County sports teams all season long from everyone at Glen O'Habaker.
With a Timber Kids savings account, you can start to save money, earn prizes, and teach your kids the value of savings. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Building futures is what we do at TFCU.
You really need to belong to a credit union. You belong at TFCU, Timberland Federal Credit Union, a credit union you can grow with.
The Goon and Ironhead.
And we welcome you back in here on this Thursday afternoon as we'll finish up a little early since we're not on the radio.
Ironhead's got to pack for his vacation.
Get ready for vacation and all of that. So, listen, I think this season, to me, Goon, it feels like the hype that was around this Penn State program last year is not there this year. And I'm talking about especially close to the program. I think Penn State nationally is projected about the same in both. I mean, most national publications and stuff had Penn State as third in the Big Ten behind Ohio State and Michigan last year, top 10. But I think most like 6 to 10.
We did nothing to get better.
And that's on
the field. I'm saying
where Penn State was, and I think this year it's the same thing, but internally, and I don't mean internally within the football program. I mean the fan base of Penn State. I think the expectations of a 10-2 season are there, but I don't think the juice that was there. And what I find interesting about that is, and I'm not sure I'm right about it. Let me start there, but that's just what it feels like. I don't. Last year at this point, right, people were excited about, hey, I think we can go 11-1. I think we'll get a split. And, the debate was which one would they beat? Which one would they lose to? Ohio State, Michigan. But I just don't feel that energy. Maybe as we get closer to the season, people get jacked up and you start getting more of the stories about, hey, this Kotelnicki offense is taking off. Aller's looking fantastic. I mean, all of that stuff. But it doesn't feel like the juice is there that was there last year. And I really think, Michigan's not on the schedule. Oregon's not on the schedule. So those play in Penn State's favor. Again, to me, when I look at that schedule, 11-1 is, to me, very attainable, almost should be expected. Now, again, do I think if they split the games at USC and at Wisconsin and lose a close one to Ohio State, this is a horribly disappointing season? No. But going into it, again, I think it lays out nicely for Penn State to go 11-1. That USC game will be big, but I don't think USC – I think USC's defense is still suspect. I think the timing of that game is good, where Penn State will have had a chance to kind of play out some kinks and stuff, whatever issues there may be in the armor. And I'm thinking especially on the defensive side, because I do think USC will test that Penn State defense. But I think having that West Virginia game at noon is a blessing, and having that as an opener that gets your attention. But again, a game where I just think you match up well with them. Having the week off before Wisconsin, and then I just think everything plays out nicely for Penn State to have that type of a significant run and get to that 11-win mark in the regular season.
I think people are just tempered because I feel as if it's I have heard it more than one time.
Yeah.
Show me.
Yeah. And that's not unreasonable.
And that's not unreasonable at all.
Yeah.
And that is that, okay, I have done this for the last 5 or 6 years, been really, really fired up going to this season and then just being let down a little bit by the Ohio State, Michigan fiascos. It's happened how many times? 3-4 years time now. So people are like, I'm going to temper myself. I just have that feeling that people are just like, I'm going to temper myself and my expectations on this team, and I want to see if they can do it. Because if it does happen, I mean, you just go on the internet, go on social media, and it's James is such a lightning rod for people because people, the negative people are always going to be there. He can win a national title next year, and there's still going to be negative people out there. So, and there's nothing the guy can do to win.
And that's not unique to Penn
it's not unique because it's just everybody.
That's big-time college
But I
football.
think that the average fan out there, Joe and Schmo, who are you and I's friends, who are saying, you know what, I have a really good feeling about this. I like this team, but I have to see it first. I have to see them go beat competitive, beat Ohio State. You're at home. We don't know what time the game is as of yet. Do you think that they're pushing, and that's been the delay, and that is saying we want that freaking game at night?
I do.
And why would a television network who has the rights to it not put that game on? I know Fox is trying to do this whole noon thing.
Yes,
and by the way, mark my words, the Big Ten, if they're the Big Ten that was in 1993 when we started it here, and that is they're going to do everything in their power to not give Oregon, and Washington and UCLA and USC, like, they're not going to like handle them with kid gloves, Mike, because we were not. They didn't want us in that league. So the last thing that the Big Ten wants is one of those 4 teams coming in and just running roughshod across the Big Ten. That's the last thing that they want, in my opinion.
I don't think I think that was a Penn State specific situation.
It was unbelievable.
I
Still
really
is to this day.
I
have to say this.
Don't think the conference offices would. I don't think it'd be a big deal to them.
Now they did roll out the red carpets for Nebraska. No pun intended with the big red, but
literally the red
carpet. I feel as if they treated Nebraska coming in like, oh wow, this is great. Well, they added these guys, and we were like, well, what the hell did you do for us? You hated us being there. You didn't want us there. You still don't want us here. So I'm going to go back and say that I don't think the Big Ten will give USC, UCLA any kind of preferential treatment, i.e., having to play Michigan in their biological clock at 9:00 in the morning. If you play on the East Coast and Michigan is still in the East Coast time at that point, I believe that it's a noon game in Michigan, in Ann Arbor, is 9:00 in the morning for Oregon. Yeah, that's a weird game for those guys to be playing.
It is
really weird, actually. And we could talk. How do you handle that? There's 2 ways to handle that. Get there like 2 or 3 days before, and then work your biological clock in, or you just get in there and stay on your biological clock, but then your biological clock says it's 9:00 in the morning. You should be eating breakfast, not hitting people, not stretching at 7:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
Weird stuff, right? Weird.
It is, but it's not. It's not that. It's not like this is the only time that's happened where a team's coming in from the West Coast and playing a new.
Oh, it's not fair to them, in my opinion. Never really has been. But it's just like us having to go down in the South and play in the heat sometimes.
Yeah.
They don't put the air conditioners on for us down there. That's why I cannot wait till December. I don't want to go undefeated this year, Jeff.
No?
I don't want a first round. I want a home game, December 21st.
Yeah.
I want LSU. I want Florida State. I want Oklahoma. I want Alabama. I want Clemson. I want Georgia. I want you guys to come on up north on December 21st. I want to see your Christmas week ruined in Happy Valley, Pennsylvania.
There you go. Yeah, I'd be all right with that myself.
God, imagine how cold it's going to be. Oh, I can't wait.
We talked about the possibility of NCAA football playoff expansion, and we get word today that the NCAA basketball tournament is looking to expand to either 72 or 76 teams.
That's a third of the teams
moving forward, which
300 Division I basketball programs, and there'll be 75 in a tournament. So, well, hell, how many? What's the percentage that play in bowl games?
Yeah, what's a few more?
Yeah, that's the other thing about this new playoff schedule. I know that the bowls were depleted to begin with, but like, if you're not in those top 6 to 8 bowls, that's going to really, really. Like the Sun Bowl down in Tampa, or the Citrus Bowl type of thing. That's some crazy stuff, man.
Yeah.
Are they still going to have the same bowl? It's not going to mean anything. Not that it's meant anything before, but.
Yeah, I don't know. I could make – that will be interesting to see. I could make the argument either way on that, as far as it's almost like the NIT now, and especially if we go to 76 teams, but – kind of depends where you're at on the spectrum. Like, yeah, if you're Alabama going to the
Sun Bowl,
not exactly. You wouldn't think racing to get there, but if you are, a program that has been downtrodden for the last couple of decades, and hey, man, we have an opportunity to go to a bowl game. Sure. That's a big deal. And listen, I think, at the end of the day, the question is, are football fans going to tune in less
huge.
or not. And my guess is
whose decision was that?
I think fans.
You're talking about the NFL. They're going head to head, right? You're talking about that?
Yeah, I think fans are and just with the lesser bowl games. If you're still going to lock in as a fan and watch it, now that we have the playoffs, football. I'm done with those smaller bowl games. I think most fans are going to be like, yeah, it's football. Let me check it out.
No, but I'm interested in seeing is December 21st is a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah,
and the play-in game, the playoff games are Friday night. There's one noon, 4 and 8.
Yep,
and the NFL plays at noon, 4 and 8 on Saturday. I think the NFL knew that the NCAA was going to do that because they had already announced it, and they purposely put those games head to head. I don't like that.
I don't either.
I mean, that's the NFL being the big bad wolf yet again, trying to take something away from college like they took Thursday night away. God, it still makes me mad. Remember 25, 30 years ago how fantastic those Thursday night games were?
I do.
Absolutely. And now you're watching MAC games on Tuesday night because Thursday night you got to watch the Carolina Panthers play the Indianapolis Colts.
But not on TV.
Put on a paid network. Yes, you are right.
Yeah, it's a different world.
Well, you have a heck of a freaking trip, bud.
Well, I will. We're looking forward to it. Again, family and I heading down to Holden Beach for the week, so I'll be out next week. And then the following week, we have no shows. July 2nd and 4th, we're taking that week off. So I am out of here until that Monday, July 9th. And so, yeah, you have a good week next week, too. Man. Have a couple of fun shows.
Make sure we get the doors unlocked, bud.
And, yes, we are working, hopefully this evening, with the doors unlocked. We will have our Let's Talk program here locally. We are of the belief, anyway, tomorrow from 8 to 10. And, again, the Dear Goon will be back on Tuesday. Folks, we hope you have a great weekend. And until Tuesday's show, please be good and be